Snap. Is this working? I think this is working. All right, so it is May 27th, a little past 11 a.m. I have been here for, I think, on the last hour and a half or so. It is a Saturday, and I am going to be working on high level strategy, learning some new stuff, always trying to learn something new. Typically on the weekends, I'm going to play some stuff that I absolutely don't like to learn about, but I'm going to be learning about it because life's all about learning new stuff. Um, but I wanted to talk about something because it, it's because the last couple of how can I say this? Last couple of videos, last couple rants, right? I'm talking about kind of like the real estate market, what my take is on the market, and I get messages and I get emails and people ask me, what it is, and you know, who argues with you the most, right? Like I'm a young dude, right? And I come across like I talk to a lot of old people, right? You know who argues you with the most, right? The most stubbornest people, man. They argue with you, and then they pound their chest to making sure that to prove you wrong, right? Like it's the weirdest thing ever. I don't know what it is, and then that typically correlates to if they're broke or not. It really does. It's weird because they try to argue on my opinion of what my take is when they don't even maybe understand where my position is at. Right, like for example, they think that because I'm in real estate, I'm so bullish about real estate, and that's the only thing that I'm like pitching, and I'm just like, dude, that's not the case. I'm aware of the challenges and issue affordability. I'm aware of, hey, medium home prices have hit in certain parts of the country, right, at 2006, 2007 levels, right? And I'm really understanding affordability, right? Affordability currently right now as it stands, the least affordable in this country when it comes to houses than ever before, all right? But I do understand other things beyond that, which is, yeah, the other times in 06, 07, it was more, quote unquote, more affordable because we had a lot more exotic loans and stuff like that. So when you look at the report, that's what it was based on. But it's just funny because the guys that I talk to, when they ask me more questions, right? And then typically the individuals who ask me more questions, I've come to realize as I've gotten older, those are the people that are typically much more successful than those people that are really, really stuck in their own opinion, is not even willing to entertain a counter perspective. Absolutely will not be willing to entertain a counter perspective, right? And it's crazy because it's kind of like this level, right? Like, one, you have an individual that just will agree with you on everything, right? And if that's the case, typically I always say, man, like they're really not, they'll get eaten up and chewed up alive in business or probably in life, okay? And then you have the other side, the counter perspective, is a person that will just flat out argue with you, right? Okay, and a lot of the argument is based on emotions, okay, not facts, not things like that, right? And then you have kind of like the third level of people that I run across, and these are like literally unicorns, okay? I'm talking about unicorns, and there's shit in fucking rainbows out their ass because they're very, very hard to find, which is the individuals who ask questions. And not only these questions, but they continuously ask questions over and over again. And sometimes they'll ask the question in multiple different ways to try to come in, right? So for example, right, like if you go to a conference, right, and I cannot stress this enough, right, because it trips me out, man. It really does. Is and sometimes I do this, okay, but I'm aware when I do this. But which is this, that you go to a meeting, you go to a conference, you meet someone, right? and and all it's being done is like literally you're like pounding your chest on how great you are, or what the next big thing that you're doing, and all that type of stuff. And I'm just like, dude, and I can't stand that, versus if you go to a meeting, right? Like my thing is like I want to leave the place like a little bit smarter than I am, okay? Or to learn something new that I didn't know about, right? And then why do I do that is because I like learning. That's number one. And then number two is that if I don't, I just think it's a waste of fucking time, and I don't want to be there, right? And that's one of the things that why I say like I'm an introvert and I don't like to be around a lot of people is because sometimes that little small talk of chit chat of bullshit that I just don't want to deal with, which is like I just want to ask certain questions of the where it's at, but it's you have to be smart on how you ask the question, right? Like for example, right? I'll give a prime example. I was at a friend's wedding, right? My wife's wedding, right? And they're at rehearsal, church rehearsal, right, for the wedding. And I knew one of the husband there, and I knew he was in a particular industry that I'm really really interested in because I think that they're going to make so much. I think, in my opinion, so much changes in the world, and it's about genome, right? Like DNA, right? I've been since I was a kid. One of my favorite class has always been science and biology. I was really good at it, not because of my Asian, but I was really good at it. So I knew he was in there. So when I sat with him, right, like I purposely said I want to sit with him and I want to learn, right? So I sat with him and then I just asked tons and tons of questions, right? And it's not like the first time I met him, right? So, but before that, I didn't really know what he did before. Okay, I had literally like I was caught up in my own shit in my head at that time when I met him at like I think at a camp or whatever, right? So I was so caught up in my own crap and going through borderline high level stress that was just like really really where I didn't even want to be there, right? So I was disengaged and stuff like that. But now I'm much like my head is on, right, and I feel like I'm back to my old self. And I was there and I was like, okay, I got to ask this guy a lot of questions, right? So I started asking tons and tons of questions, and he gave me so much insight about the psychology of the industry, gave me some insight on possible even trades that I can make, possible things that I should watch out for in the future. Some the big thing about people in that particular industry, their framework and how they look at what they're doing and things like that, right? And that's the difference where I think you start finding out where are they going to be in terms of level of achievement, level of successes in life is the sheer amount of questions that you ask. But when you ask that question, you're not asking in a way to lead them in a direction to just prove you're wrong. You're genuinely asking it from a place of curiosity, right? I always say this all the time, is that you can be genuinely curious or be genuinely ignorant, okay? But you can't literally be both, okay? You can't. So it's a very difficult thing to do. I catch myself sometimes, and I'm like, shit, man, I'm being ignorant about this. I need to shut the fuck up, let the other person talk, right? And I do that, and I'll give you a prime example, right? Is that I'm talking to a friend of mine who's a developer, a lot older than I am, knows a lot more about the business, right? And then he asks me first what my take about the real estate market is, right? Like a couple of months ago, okay? And then I kind of be like, blah, 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 blah. Right. And he gave that. Right. And then I says, yeah, what's your thoughts? Right. And then he was just like, well, I'm kind of like that. Right. So it was literally, we didn't go into kind of like a ping pong match, right, with ideas going back and forth like this. Okay. It literally went like my information went this way. And he just literally kind of said, yeah, I kind of agree with that. And then he's all like, hey, you know what? I got to go. Right. And what just happened in that conversation? The guy is worth a lot more than I am, right? I'm talking about like, probably one of the guys that owns a lot of real estate, and one of the new kids, right? What just happened, right? He took out my information and then went. And then it didn't dawn on me until like a couple weeks later because I was so caught up in my own stuff where I was like, shit, man, I didn't get absolutely any information out of him on what his thought is because he's a lot older Gen X guy, right? I'm kind of like the older millennial, right? And he's been through like the kind of like the 90s and stuff like that, the boom, right? The last one. And then, now we're here, right? Like me, I just started off on the cusp of the last boom, felt the crash and then starting it back up, right? So I didn't. So I hit him back up and I started asking him questions again. Okay. And then now keep in mind, he's the type of guy that actually like puts money into like politics and quote unquote lobbyists, okay, to push a certain agenda through and stuff like that. Why? Is because the dude is smart, okay, and we got into conversation about the Olympics. And the reason being is I call him up and I was like, hey man, he's like, what's happening? And I started asking him. I was like, hey. I was just like, yeah. So last time we talked, you told me about this, but I didn't really get your thoughts on that, man. I know you had to go. So what are your thoughts on what's been going on, man? Because I know, hey, that measure, the baseline ordinance, all this stuff didn't pass. And then he's all, fear He's all like, that's really what I'm concerned about. He's all like, everything is positive right now, and everything feels good. So when that happens, the only thing that can really happen is the other way. But then the question is, how long are people going to be in the have this great feeling of dopamine going on and feeling good about what's going on. And then I was just like, yeah. So what do you mean? So do you think that there's going to be a crash? There's going to be a correction? There's going to be something? He's like, honestly, I don't know. Other than the fact that certain stuff are overpriced, and I'm just being very careful on what I acquire. And I was just like, okay. So what are you thinking? And he was just like, well, the interesting thing is going to be about the ordinance. And he kind of breaks down the ordinance that there's a moratorium for 2 years, right? So in LA, he's all like, yeah, so a lot of the builders, the mini builders, are now literally shit out of luck because they can't build these McMansion and make huge rips. So then he was just like, yeah, so I'm just wondering where that money is going to go to. I was just like, I didn't really think about that, right? Because a lot of times people talk about like market cycles and it is an up or down, but what they're really not talking about is what the other players are doing, right? There's just usually like their strong opinion made and says, I can't, yeah, no, I don't want to do this, right? And you'll see tons of trolls on the internet about this, right? And especially from like the millennial generation, right? And a lot of these people from the millennial generation that haven't done jack shit in their life, okay? Haven't been through some things, right? They live in with mama and daddy taking care of them, right? Taking care of them, and then they have so much opinion about something because they just humbly just Googled something and they think that they're smarter than everyone else, right? Versus like, and I met one at another wedding that was talking about that. Basically, I don't think he knew that I was in real estate, right? But then I kept on asking them, well, yeah, what's your thoughts about it? Because I heard them like talking to another friend about like, yeah, the person was saying I want to buy a house, and this guy was just like scolding him, says, don't buy now, it's gonna pop, and you should buy then, and stuff like that. And later on, I did like go to Facebook and like find, like his profile wasn't on private, so I was able to see. And you find out the dude doesn't even own a fucking house. Is in school still. I'm just like, dude, like, really? Like, you're so opinionated about it, and you like peddle all this garbage around the fucking internet, and maybe throw around your friends, and you're just a walking garbage truck, Like, it's just mind-boggling to me, But then you got the other side of the spectrum, like some of my friends and stuff like that, and we're genuinely like curious on saying, how is this going to impact, right? To a point where I keep on saying is that the folks that have the money, right, like the millennials that are sitting on cash on the sideline, and then they don't want to buy because kind of like, it's a little overpriced. It's just like, what is going to happen? No one really knows. No one really knows. Other than you got to ask questions, okay? And it's really yeah. It's just surprising to me, Like, matter of fact, I talked to a very successful young agent, right? A lot successful than I was probably in my age, when it's the same age as him. And the reason being is the dude listens, okay? The dude's wise above his ears, and I think it all has to do a lot with his parents, especially probably. I've heard this kind of a story with his dad and stuff like that. So I think it all has to do a lot with his dad instilling certain belief system in his mind since a young age, that it literally correlates into business, and the dude can execute. The dude can execute, and not only can he execute, but the man's humble enough to in my opinion, he's humbling. He's dominating humbly, right? And it's interesting because I called him up, right, and I was just like, hey man, what's your take on this, right? And I wanted to get insight on what the psychology of the new people that want to come into like real estate marketing, right? I mean, not marketing, but real estate in general, like as a real estate agent, become a real estate investor, right? Like I really genuinely wanted to understand that. So I hit him up because he's around tons of people. And then he told me beforehand that tons of people were hitting him up. So I asked him, and then literally like questions after questions, I'm asking him. Right. And I'm asking you not to like prove my positioning wrong on what I think it is, but it's more of to genuinely like gather data and gather information, so that way I can find out and says what is really going on, right? What is really happening? And it starts finding out where like, which the hunch is, a lot of times people presume that people in real estate make a lot of money, right? Like a shitload of money, and they're just like, oh my God, and it seems easy. Okay, so that's why they hop in, and then they get a rude awakening really, really fast that it's not as easy as they think, and two, it's a grind, and three, it's a fucking grind. Yeah, and then you got to be smart, right? And that's where it's at. It's because the barrier to entry into like space of like real estate in a certain industry is like it's really low, especially like real estate investors, right? Like people call themselves investors or whatever it is. The barrier to entry is super super low, and especially like right now, as like new loan products are coming out and stuff like that, where right, with like 1% down stuff is coming out, and here first, I think fractional ownership type of loans are going to come out, which is going to allow the individuals to pay less. When they pay less, they're going to remove MI insurance probably, and I think that's going to increase like affordability, right? And we possibly might see like another boom that's going to pop. Okay, now we might see a little dip, and it might be like kind of like the 90s too, where 90s market was kind of flat until it started skyrocketing after the dot-com bubble popped, and then the money from the dot-com came into the real estate, right? Because right now we have the Dow, the stock market high, and then we have the real estate market high too. So one of them is going to give, okay, sooner or later, okay? And then the easiest one is going to give is the one that's an asset class that's a lot easier to liquidate, which is, guess what, is the equities market, right? But we did see just recently kind of like even the kind of quote bid the cryptocurrency kind of dip too. But where am I going with this? Is that, man, be humble and be humble and dominate humbly, but also at the same time, if you enter a room, right, and you presume that you're like the smartest one in the room, you're a fucking idiot. Like, like I know I'm a smart dude, but when I come into the room, sometimes, it is I'm trying to learn something from someone all the time. Okay? Yes, I'm that selfish. All right, I am that selfish. I am trying to learn something from someone all the time, and sometimes people will perceive that as a very argument. Like I like to argue. All right, I had one of our guys on our team before, and then they would always say that it says Jeff likes to simply argue a lot, but really it wasn't that I wasn't trying to argue. It was really trying to figure out the curiosity on why certain do the things that they do. And I remember, there was certain arguments where if you have a podcast, you have heard of this, which is the concept of was it a Hyundai or a Ferrari, right? Like we were in the business trying to do something, and I was asking the question: are we trying to sell a Hyundai or we're trying to sell a Ferrari, right? And they were like, well, we're trying to sell everything. We're a Hyundai, No, they were saying we're a Ferrari, but I'm just like, but the marketing isn't set up that way. How is that so? Which I kind of knew the answer for, but I was trying to make a proof point. And it's a really, really, and I'll kind of tie with this, right? Is how you tell the difference between an amateur entrepreneur and an amateur marketer, right? Versus a pro, all right? You ask the question, they don't understand the difference between why someone buys a drill. Right, and this is a very old saying that's been out. And if you know where that's from, let me know. It's a badass book. Actually, I'll say it's a badass book by Perry Marshall called the 80/20 Sales and Marketing. Okay, and highly recommend for you to read that one, and maybe the Richard Koch original 80/20 book. Read that as well. And then there's been spin-offs of the 80/20 principle, like what the 4-Hour Work Week is a spin-off of all of that. Right, he just has a better hook and name that people buy. But in the 80/20 Sales and Marketing, right, they talk about the concept of why do people buy a drill, right? Their people are not buying a drill because they want a drill. I hope you understand that, right? People are not buying a drill because they want a drill. No, they're buying a damn drill because they want a fucking hole, right? Okay, and this is the most difficult concept to understand for people that want to start a business and or people that are looking to grow their business, right? It's a hard concept. It's been hard for me personally to understand, okay? And it's so important because why is you get caught up in your own crap, you get caught up in your own shit, and you just simply don't get that, right? It's just like, why is my product not selling? It should sell. Because look, man, you think that people want a drill, but in reality people want a what? Whole. Okay, and it's really interesting, right? When we're doing construction stuff that we were importing, construction finishes that we're importing from China, right, in containers, and I was kind of in charge of the sales and marketing side, right? And that is the question I brought up all the time, right? Which was, is it the drill? Is it the hole? Is it the Hyundai? Is it the Ferrari? Right? Like, why? Right? And and then they'll be like, well, they need it. Everyone needs it, right? Like, hey, there's like one of the ones with like bifold doors, right? And they'll be like, everyone needs that. Right? And I was like, no, they don't. They can just fucking get a bifold sliding door. And I said, what you're doing is really playing on the fact that you want to actually what? Sell what? The want. right? Sell the want. And it's another concept that I kind of ranted about on why women buy shoes, right? Because women buy shoes to feel beautiful. Women are not buying shoes to actually have for the utility of shoes to protect their feet. They're not doing that. They absolutely are not. And you have to be understanding of that as you're going into kind of like if you're interested in buying a house or you're investing in real estate, right? Is to understand that concept, right? And I say this all the time: sellers sell on logic, buyers buy on emotions the majority of the time, right? And it's so true. Okay. And currently, right now, a lot of the buyers are trying to buy on emotion, as well as certain sellers are trying to sell on logic versus the one that don't want to sell, right? They're just emotional and just like, yeah, it's gonna keep on going up, right? Like, I'll never sell, right? Like, and then when you have those extremes, like never and can't, man, I get like, why? Like, you're so inflexible versus, like I always say, you got to be firm on being flexible on your position, your opinions, right? Everything. Okay. And that's genuinely what I got. So speaking of firm and being flexible, I can't be firm on flexible about my time. I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's 11:40. I got to get to work. And Saturdays typically is, again, I'm learning new stuff right on here on the camera, as well as I'm working on the business. So I got a lot of stuff that I'll be working on, and it's great. It's quiet. No one's here at the office. I love it, and I just get to focus on what I need to focus on. While probably I didn't realize this, that yeah, today is considered like a holiday. And matter of fact, my birthday is actually tomorrow. I totally forgot about that. And you know why, like, a birthday is not a big thing for me, and my wife knows this and she thinks it's weird. It's yeah, I'm turning 32 on the 28th, actually May 28th, and birthdays have never been a big thing. It's like I talked to my brother about this, and it has never been, and a lot has to do with, I think, is it's my dad, right? My dad would say, you should actually thank your mom for having you on your birthday. She would say that, and I didn't get that. And maybe he said it for a reason maybe greater than that. He's kind of like a strange guy, right? Maybe he said it for the way of, because they didn't want me to become like kind of like the age, like age. So, kind of, how like people get all freaked out about their birthday. They're like, oh my God, I'm that certain age, and I just wonder, why is that? Is it because that they and I've had conversations with other people, and I was just like, what, the people that freak out about their age all the time, and I was talking to another, friend of mine, and we're going back and forth, and we're just kind of like, in my thought process that I had was just like, I bet you anything in their childhood, they probably had birthday parties, and they probably had tons of people, celebrating their birthdays for them, right? And that's why they're so like, oh yeah, the age is a big thing. Versus like some of the people that like age isn't the big thing for them, it's like those are typically the people that never, really cared about their birthday. I don't know. Just an observation I got. So but as you know stay stay observant. Ask questions. Like for yeah, ask questions. That's what I got. I got to run to the bathroom. Oh, and then funny thing, here, side note on this. I've been trying to drink like a gallon of water a day. So, but then look at this. Check this out. So I got this, and this. And then I got another bottle of water here, and then I got another one here, too. It's just crazy, man. It's just been stacking. So because I'm making a habit, like I go in and I buy these gallons of water, and my goal is to finish this. So clearly, I probably should finish this one first. So I have these tons of bottled water. So you should definitely do it. Drink more water. I think people are dehydrated. But you know what the crazy stuff is, that man, I have to piss like a racehorse every single time. Man, it's crazy. Like, cause my body's just like, yeah, so I go. So, but anyways, wait, TMI information for y'all. I gotta get to work, get my grind on. Hopefully, if you're out there on this supposedly holiday out there, right? Hopefully you're grinding it as well. Let me know in the chat box if you are. Build and work towards your dreams, right? While everyone else is having fun. And that's really what it is, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a firm believer on working hard, because why? Because that's one thing that you have 100% control of. Smarts and IQ side, right? Yes, you can develop skills, you can learn new stuff, but but you got to push yourself. Like, again, I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna be learning about new stuff. And to prove a point, right? I have literally 2 terabytes of informational products that I have bought. Okay, in the course of my years, like studying, right, coaching and mentor, I've spent hundreds, if not thousands, no, definitely over $100,000 on just strictly education. I have, and coaching and mentorship. I have. A couple of 5 grand here, 10 grand here, 20 grand here, right? And I've spent that because I know how important it is to get education outside of the little academia world or whatever. Why? Is because I didn't go to college. So it's just for me, it's just surprising and funny where I've gotten in conversation with some people where they're just like, oh no, like Jeff, people think like Jeff is just some type of salesman guy, and they think that I'm not that intelligent or whatever. And you can just tell by the choices of words that they use, and they just like with their nose stuck up in there because they have a higher education and stuff like that, right? And I'm just like, dude, sure, whatever, man. And I have certain opinions about certain stuff, right? Like, you're getting a fucking shit diploma on a shit degree that absolutely has no relevance in this new digital age and this new modern world that we live in. And then I see you complaining on the internet about how broke you are and or something like that. I'm just like, dude, come on, man. So you bust your ass, work, work, work. That's what you got control over, So, and I cringe upon that. I absolutely cringe on that when people complain and they're not doing anything. Now, if you're gonna complain to yourself, but don't tell everyone else. Why do you need to tell everyone else? Like, yeah, when you start spewing bullshit and then telling everyone else, and you start complaining about that, and you're not doing anything about it, you're a fucking hypocrite. So like in my case, like I tell people to work hard. And one of the reasons why I do this is because I work, right? Like I've probably, have worked on a majority and all of the fucking holidays, majority of all the weekends, okay, towards the night. And I do that. Why? Is because so I can leave a legacy that's bigger than myself later on. And it's in my DNA to work because that's what I've seen. I've seen my mom work, right, being a single mom. I see my grandpa work, right. I did not see my dad, because he would work a lot, and stuff like that. So again, it's in my DNA, and I get it. If people haven't seen their parents work a lot, and then they've been coddled growing up, they're running into issues of all the time, and support, all the time at work, like you're just like, oh my God, it's issue, so anyways, enough of this Saturday rant. It's strategy Saturday, where I'm going to be working on the business, and hopefully you are working on the business as well versus in the business, because in the business you're working through Monday through Friday where everyone else works. And let's build it, ladies and gentlemen. We need more entrepreneurs in this country, okay? We're taught way too much to be workers, okay? But no one is teaching people how to actually make jobs, okay? So go out there, make money so you can hire people. And one of the reasons why I'm doing this is because I will be hiring more people for the company. I will be bringing on more people, talented individuals, and I would love to grow this office as I'm expanding this office to whole nother heights, So, and that's what I'm currently doing. We got 2 offices here, and then, currently working on signing a new lease as well. So, again, if you're out there, hey, hit me up if you're looking for a job, but you got to be really smart and talented, okay? And you got to be willing to work hard, right? So, anyway, that's what I got. I'll shut the fuck up. Let me get to work. right, Jeff Koga back again. So I am going to end the stream. The reason being is in about 30 minutes or so at 2 p.m. Pacific, we're going to be doing a special interview for the Jeff Koga live show. And I'm going to be interviewing my good friend Jason. And we're going to get him on the show and ask him some couple of tough questions when it comes to chasing your passion or chasing your money, and some things that I want to definitely talk to him about, because he has literally said, threw his hands up and says, I'm going after my passion. So we'll talk about that. So I'll see you guys in a couple of minutes. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.